In every corner of the world, communities face unique challenges: poverty, inequality, environmental degradations. These are just a few of the formidable barriers that stand in the way of progress. But amid the chaos and adversity, there exists a beacon of hope: the power of collective action. Hello everyone, I am Abigail Digia, and today I want to take you on a journey through the power of community interventions. It's a place where every hand extended to help echoes with the promise of a brighter future. Welcome to the realm of community interventions. Now, I want you to take a moment to reflect on the past few years of your life. For many of us, our experiences during the pandemic stand out. Well, that's my goal. Now, let me ask you, have any of you come across community pantries in your neighborhoods or local communities? In April 2021, Anna Patricia Non, a resident of Maginhawa Street in Quezon City, set up the first community pantry as a simple act of kindness to help those in need. She stocked a small cart with essential items such as rice, canned goods, and vegetables, and placed it along the street with a sign inviting people to take what they need and donate what they can. The idea quickly gained traction on social media, inspiring individuals and communities across the country to replicate the concept. Community pantries exemplify the Filipino spirit of bayanihan, or the communal unity and cooperation. This program is an example of a successful community intervention. In general terms, community interventions refer to action that address social problems or unmet human needs and takes place in a neighborhood, community, or other setting. A community intervention is, therefore, an intentional action to promote change that can be expressed in different ways depending on the needs of the community. One type of program is more traditional known as professionally led intervention. So professionally led interventions involves a program planned and implemented by professionals. I want you to imagine this. For example, a mental health practitioner could have visited a patient with dementia in her home and provided her with medication to relieve her depressions. A second type of interventions align more with the spirit of community psychology, in that it uses approaches of both participation and collaboration. It is called a grassroots interventions. The second type of community interventions involves bringing volunteers. For example, bringing a volunteer into the house of the woman with dementia I mentioned before, and starts working together to develop and provide social support intervention to the old woman. This type of programs often have recurring themes of prevention, social justice, and an ecological understanding of people within their environments. The first of the two types of interventions involve developing and implementing a program in a more traditional way, with the mental health professional designing and implementing the intervention. For example, a psychologist can teach a group of teenagers positive social skills so that they can confidently and voluntarily say no to their peers when they are encouraged to consume alcohol or other substances. A second type of interventions involve a participatory approach. For example, imagine the security problems are affecting your neighborhood, and you meet with group of neighbors to address how this issue is impacting your community. Instead of implementing preconceived and predesigned activities, everything is decided in collaborations with the neighbors through active citizen participation. The interventions emerges as neighbors establish objectives and decide what action they can carry out together. And now let's move on to our next topic, which is the evidence-based practice. It refers to the programs that are designed to work effectively. That's why it is called evidence based, meaning that prior research has shown that these programs are successful in what they are intended to do. Another essential feature of community interventions is that they are implemented interventions to meet the needs and interests of the community. It how the outcomes of the interventions depend, in part, on the degree of readiness for change in the community. This means that the community members are generally excited about the intervention and committed to seeing the programs through. Finally, community interventions are implemented successfully when the community psychologists have the necessary skills and abilities to work collaboratively with community members to make effective, long lasting changes. Now, in the next part, we will see the logic of effectiveness that is strongly rooted in the tradition of Kurt Lewin's in 1946 action research. His work involved improving intergroup relations and preventing discrimination, and it helped us understand the importance of using solid research methods and outcome studies to support our work. The sequence of planning, action, and fact finding is a learning cycle based on experience. So, in the first step, the theory guides our action. In the second step, we then implement the intervention. In the third and last step, evaluative research is used to check the effects of the action. However, the intervention does not end there because the results can change the way we think about how we might develop even more effective interventions to solve problems in the future. Community psychologists constantly repeat these three steps to gain more data to improve the effectiveness of their interventions.
Imagine a classroom where a teacher conducts a vivid experiment showing the harmful effects of smoking in a cotton ball. But will this alone stop students from smoking? Now imagine a community with the same anti-smoking message but amplified by students, teachers, parents, and even the media. Now suddenly this impact multiplies. This is the power of implementation with the spirit of community psychology, where community partnerships actively bring those factors into the design of the intervention. Implementation isn't just about executing a program, it's about understanding the intricate dynamics within a community, tailoring interventions to meet its specific needs. Take, for example, the case of smoking prevention. Decades ago, tobacco was endorsed by physicians, but through evidence-based intervention and community awareness, perception shifted, leading to significant reductions in smoking rates. Several factors influence implementation effectiveness. The first is skill levels of the implementers. The expertise and training of those carrying out the implementation significantly impacts its success. The second one is community readiness and interest. A receptive and engaged community is crucial for fostering positive adaptation and sustained participation. The third one is resource availability. Access to necessary resources like funding, equipment, or personnel directly affects the feasibility and the quality of the implementation. All in all, successful implementation can be done by having adequate levels of these factors. But here's the thing, not every community is equally ready for change. Community readiness plays a pivotal role in determining the success of interventions. Think of it like planting a seed. The seed, which is our program, might be perfect, but if the soil, which is the community, isn't prepared, it would not flourish, just as in the case of preventing intimate partner violence, where public awareness varied between countries, leading to a differing level of program effectiveness. So, how do we empower communities to drive change effectively? One program that exemplifies this is Communities That Care. This community psychology program fosters collaboration among local organizations to address issues like drug dependency and violence among adolescents. By involving community members in program design and implementation, it ensures that interventions are culturally sensitive and impactful. This program possesses adequate intensity, continuity, and dose that is necessary for it to have the most significant impact in the community context. Now, those refers to the number of sessions or the duration of a program and influences the level of result that we can achieve. This is why the Communities That Care program is such a success. It's because it is a program that cultivates continuous progress through repeated implementation and practice. Here we have an example of a summarized version of some key factors in the implementation process when trying to prevent alcohol abuse. First is the community readiness, which we have learned earlier. Second is the capacities. The capacities of the operator of the program and reactions of the community, the program, can influence the results. Third is the transfer science practice. This pertains to the proper functioning of programs by having a suitable theoretical design that works in a specific context which they are implemented. In conclusion, effective implementation in community psychology is more than just delivering programs. It's about empowering communities to drive change from within. By understanding community dynamics, fostering collaboration, and ensuring consistent support, we can plant the seeds of a brighter future, one community at a time.
We learn the value of the environment and possible community partners when we try to solve issues through community interventions. We must comprehend the neighborhoods and community setting that the community interventions are placed in. To further understand, let me explain one example of these community interventions involving refugees and the approaches of several countries in dealing with this issue. When displaced people in Colombia escape their political violence, they can obtain the housing, but this frequently puts them in a closed environment where they live their daily lives with other people who experience the post-traumatic stress disorder. This also happens in Spain. When new immigrants are arrived, they are welcomed into publicly owned reception centers that provides for their basic needs in terms of foods, lodging, and healthcare. They can also take advantage of other initiatives designed to facilitate their absorption into a new nation, such as the language classes and workshops to increase their employment. Still, very few of the people living in the receiving facilities are able to secure employment in Spain. As a result, the psychological resources that have been made available have not been utilized by refugees. Second-order changes such as offering job chances, which may influence people's behavior in more enduring and durable way. One example of this is the child labor, that deprives children of their childhood, their potential, and their dignity, and that is harmful to physical and mental development. A global issue that impacts many developing nations is child labor. The kids' social, emotional, and cognitive development suffers greatly as a result. Social skills training, academic motivation reinforcement, and self-esteem promotion are all possible program areas. However, a child's environment must also be a priority for successful intervention programs. If young children must work for their parents in order to sustain, the community psychologists must assess the family as a whole and perhaps even identify more effective means of income generation for parents so they are not dependent on their kids or on their children. These kinds of intervention initiatives in Latin America have been created by foreign groups in partnership with national governments and other external agencies, such as the International Labor Organization under the International Program on the Elimination of Child Labor. These multinational organizations have been created and executed programs over the past 20 years that have led to a roughly 30% reduction of prevalence of child labor globally. When creating these kinds of community psychology treatments, environmental conditions must be taken into account. As we can see in this table, it emphasizes the ecological level, which refers to how the biological world is organized into a nested hierarchy, providing specific frames of reference to study ecology, the context of intervention, and some examples of actions. Ecological level, which is individual, the context of intervention is children at risk. And the example of action is the promotion of self-esteem and social skills training. And another ecological level is the microsocial. So in microsocial, the context of intervention is the families. And the example of action is the change of attitude and improvements of the supervision of the children. Another example is the ecological level, which is the organizational. The context of interventions is school, and the example of action is improvement of organizational social climate and school relations with families. The ecological level for locations and the context of intervention, rural versus urban. The examples of action is agricultural activities versus selling in the street, internally displaced person versus parent study. And the last one is the ecological level for macro-social. And the context of intervention is policies. And the example of action is the agreement between employees and union and the compulsory education policies. There are many important lessons we can learn from working to develop community interventions. To sum up the idea of community intervention, working to create community interventions can teach us a lot valuable lessons. Using programs that have some evidence supporting them is one of these lessons. Collaborating with community to ensure their support and involvement in the program's creation. When working with community people, community psychologists apply sound therapy and techniques, something that frequently is not the case, with many therapies that are imposed on them with little involvement from the community. Participation in the community at large make it more probable that community members will accept the intervention and continue it in the future. In conclusion, the community intervention refers a deliberate course of action designed to modify behavior concerning a social issue. In action research, new information is created by execution of program in a cycle of learning based on the experience. Intervention based are on prior theoretical models. The goal of applying evidence-based strategies to achieve results is how effectiveness is measured. The degree of community readiness should be taken into account during the implementation with an emphasis on encouraging active community participation.